Oh, hi there. It's October 26th, I think. I'm Ezra Levant, I'm sure. And this is Battleground. I wasn't quite sure on the date there for a second. I've been traveling around to so many places, as you may know. I was in London, Old Blighty, in the heart of the United Kingdom for several days for Tommy Robinson's latest trial. You know, that's the fourth court hearing I've been to for the lad, and of course I missed his first one that he alone attended on May 25th in Leeds when he was arrested, charged, convicted, sentenced, and shipped off to prison all within the course of 5 hours. So it's become a bit of a farce, I think. To use a legal phrase, it's bringing the administration of justice into disrepute, don't you think? Tommy was arrested back then for doing a live stream video outside the court of a rape gang trial. The judge of that trial and the Crown Prosecution Service both agreed that Tommy's comments did not threaten the integrity or disrupt the integrity of the trial. It just didn't. Nonetheless, he was sentenced to prison, the first journalist in the UK to face that penalty since the 1940s. And I mention that because two other, Tommy mentioned the other day, he read this out in his witness statement that he read to the crowds on Tuesday at the Old Bailey, that two other tabloids in the UK recently were found in contempt of court. The Daily Mail and the Daily Mirror, I'm going from memory here. And they, in their respective cases, actually did disrupt a case, let a criminal suspect go free because they prejudiced the trial, therefore denying a victim justice. And what was their penalty? Solitary confinement, like Tommy Robinson had? Over $100,000 in legal bills, over £100,000 in legal bills, as Tommy has? No. They had a £10,000 slap on the wrist, and of course no jail time. Liberal democracies don't jail journalists for what they do, unless it's Tommy Robinson. I can assure you that without giving away any privileged information, Tommy has spent more than £10,000 in legal bills. That's all these journalists had to do. They themselves were not punished in any way. Their corporate paymasters paid a £10,000 fine. That's it. Don't you think that speaks poorly of the rule of law? The rule of law means we're treated the same based on the law, not based on our personality. Whether you're a prince or a pauper, you have the same justice. No one's above the law, but no one's below the law. But would you agree with me that Tommy Robinson has been treated as beneath the law, whereas other journalists have been treated above the law? In fact, Tommy pointed out in his witness statement that he read in London on Tuesday that other journalists broke the publication ban at that rape gang trial besides him. I think he mentioned 3 or 4 other journalists did, but none of them were arrested, prosecuted, convicted, sentenced at all. I think the United Kingdom is bringing itself into disrepute in terms of the carriage of justice. To tell you the headline, in case you weren't following along when we were over there on Tuesday, Tommy Robinson was set to have the rehearing of that contempt of court matter. The May 25th drumhead trial was thrown out by the Court of Appeal in August, and it was directed to a retrial, which in itself is unusual. In America, they'd call that double jeopardy. That retrial was supposed to happen on Tuesday. We were all there in the court, but the judge agreed with Tommy's lawyers that this should be kicked over to the Attorney General because they have to make the political decision, is this in the public interest to prosecute? That's one of the things that the prosecution will consider, the Attorney General will consider, so the trial did not proceed. And I don't think it will proceed for months, if at all. So that's as close to a victory as Tommy's going to get for a while. And I was delighted to be there. As you may know, I brought with me other real reporters. So what I mean by that is, when I was last in London for Tommy's last court date, which if memory serves was September 27th, something like that, there were 8 other journalists in court plus me. But they were like a clique, a club, a vendetta machine against Tommy Robinson. I could see that. I could see the banter amongst them. It was a stitch-up. The fix was in. I could see Tommy talk with them very earnestly, gave them all his personal cell phone, trying to persuade them of his case, I could see them pretending to listen to him, but literally minutes later they were tweeting and publishing actual lies about him. I had been in the same courtroom as they had been in, yet they were telling lies about what we had all just witnessed together, because the 8 of them were in it together. I was the only dissident voice, and I thought to myself, let's bring allies. Can you show realreporters.uk? So we set up this crowdfund. Help crowdfund real reporters for Tommy Robinson's trial. So you see those 4 smiling faces there? On the far left there, the lovely Cassandra Fairbanks from Washington, D.C. Second from the left, Avi Yamini from Down Under. He's from Melbourne, Australia. The next lady there, Candace Malcolm, a journalist who splits her time between California and Toronto. And then the fella next to Tommy in the picture there is Andrew Lawton from the other London, Ontario, where he's been a journalist in various media, including having a daily talk show on the Chorus Broadcast Network. So we brought these 4 journalists. I see there's a super chat. I see there's a super chat there from 243NV. Do you see that in the bright yellow there? Let me take a second. Let me deviate from what I was talking about. What is super chat? Super chat is something that YouTube, Google has set up where you can see on the right-hand side there all these comments streaming through, and I'm going to glance at them. I'm going to get into them today. But if you want your comment to stand out like 243NV's does, in that bright yellow highlight, and you see at the top there, it's pinned to the top there for a period of time. That's what happens when you chip in some money. So this is £9.99 pence by 243NV. And the good thing is YouTube actually shares that with us. We actually get 70% of that, which is good because they demonetize so much else of what we do. So thank you for that. That actually helps pay our bills here. And 243NV says, fantastic work, Ezra. Keep it going. Thank you. Well, I appreciate that. Anyway, back to realreporters.uk. So if you want me to read yours out, I see out of the corner of my eye, my laptop's right here, I see out of the corner of my eye, super chat because of the bright color. I'll read it out. Can you put realreporters.uk back up for a sec? So, like I say, when I was there in court the last time, it was just me and the 8 bad guys. So I thought, well, let's bring some good guys. Let's bring some allies. And when I say allies, I got to tell you, I had never met Avi Yamini before. I only had the briefest interaction with Cassandra before. I knew Candace and Andrew before, but they don't work for me. They come on occasion. So these are independent journalists. They're not Tommy maniacs like I might be described. Okay, thanks. You can take the website down. So my point is, I thought I'm not looking for Tommy boosters. I'm not looking for Tommy enthusiasts. I'm just looking for some honest reporters who are going to sit in that court and actually report what they see, not lie about it. So I think you know the deal that I said to these folks. I said, we'll pay your economy class airfare. We'll put you in a 3-star hotel, nothing fancier, sorry. We'll pay your cab fare to and from the airport. We'll pay your parking at your hometown airport. And we'll give you £100 walking around money for like incidentals. So it's not a luxury trip, and you'll note there's no fee in it for them. We're just covering out-of-pocket expenses. So I said, well, let's basically remove the barrier of geography. Let's get you to London, and the only criterion is you got to sit in the court, watch the trial, and do some journalism. And I am not going to direct that, edit that, supervise that, vet that, censor it, or anything. I'm just doing one thing, taking away the travel barrier. So they were independent of me. They work for their own editors. So it was great. So those 8 liars, and I call them liars because they are lying. Now there was me plus 4 others, right? And we had some cameramen. And I'm going to show you how useful that was to bring real reporters into Britain to do the job British reporters wouldn't do. That is, these 4 reporters I brought from around the world, I knew them enough, I knew from their work. Avi Yamini's a bit of a Tommy booster, but the other 3 really never engaged on the matter before. But I knew, even if they didn't even like Tommy, and I think he's a likable guy, but even if they didn't like him, at least they're not part of this 10-year vendetta against him. So even if they were going to criticize him, they at least wouldn't lie about it. You can criticize Tommy without lying about him. So I thought these real reporters, even if they're critical of Tommy, so what? At least it'll be honest criticism. I'm going to show you one of my favorite videos done by these reporters in a second that in my mind proves the value of this idea I had. But first, I see Kelly Day chips in $10, a worthy cause. Go get him, Ezra and team. Well, thanks very much for that comment, and thank you for the $10. Okay, so these 4 reporters came, and we had 2 cameramen, Ed and Stuart, and Tommy had his cameraman also. So there were 3 cameras there because we're a lot of chatty people, and there was the actual sort of demonstration or rally outside. I want to show you what happened when Andrew Lawton, one of those 4 reporters, went into the court. So let me just explain. So the court opens at 10 a.m., right? That's when it starts. But it's a very high security court. They call it the Old Bailey. So we had to go through security, and I had to sign some. You had to get on a list. So me and these, so Andrew and Candace are very, straight shooters. So they got there really early. Good idea. So they got into the actual courtroom probably at around 9:15. Okay, and the court doesn't start till 10. And you'll understand the importance of this in a second. So bear with me for a second. So I'm busy kibitzing, schmoozing, saying hi to people, blah, 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 running around like I do. So I'm late, right? So I'm not in the courtroom till like 5 minutes before 10 o'clock. And that's okay, because it doesn't start till 10. But Andrew and Candace, they're straight shooters. They get there early. I told them to get there early. They got there early. So they got through the security screening, and they get in. Peter Bluer, thanks very much for your £5. So Candace and Andrew, put their picture up one more time. Put real report. Yeah. So you see Candace and Andrew. Those are the 2 ones next to Tommy there. No one in the UK knows who they are. Never seen them before. I don't think they've ever talked about Tommy before in their life. So you wouldn't recognize them, right? So those 2 are in the court. It's 9:30 a.m. I'm still at security. I like to joke, requesting. I was going to make a joke about requesting a search, but I'm going to skip the jokes for now. So I'm still in security while they're in the court. And the 8 media party, the 8 left-wing anti-Tommy extremist journalists are in there. And they don't know who these 2 are. They assume I don't know what they assume, but they knew it wasn't me. So they were speaking candidly in a way they wouldn't do if it was me. Because now that I've covered Tommy's trials 4 times, they see me, they're going to shut up, right? They'll glare at me maybe. But they weren't on their guard because they didn't know who Candace and Andrew were. Do you see my point? So there's these 2 strangers in the courtroom, plus the 8 British media party types who have a vendetta against Tommy, who hate Tommy. But these British reporters don't have their guard up because I'm not there yet. They probably all walked by me while I was still, requesting the strip search or whatever I did to delay myself. That's the joke. So they spoke freely about what they were going to do as a team. They had their own plan for a stitch-up. I didn't know any of this because I was going through security. Andrew was there. He couldn't believe what he heard. And so when we were all out of court an hour later, Andrew came up onto the stage at the demo and he told us what he heard. And I'm going to play that clip for you now. This is Andrew Lawton, one of the 4 real reporters. He's from London, Ontario, Canada. We crowdfunded his ticket and his hotel and nothing else. And some incidentals. We didn't pay him a fee. We didn't edit his work. This is real reporting, people. Look at what Andrew Lawton said he personally witnessed. Take a look.
Hello, everyone. Hello, London. My name is Andrew Lawton. I am from London, Ontario, in Canada. So I was in the courtroom room in the front row waiting to cover Tommy Robinson. The mainstream media did not know who I was, being the undocumented foreigner in this land. And they were speaking a little candidly. Would you like to hear what they said? So where's Ezra, my personal favorite? And by the way, this will be quoted on my website later today with their publication name. My personal favorite was about our friend Ezra Levant. Quote, he needs to be arrested. What they said. Before the proceeding even started, this is what they said about Tommy. Quote, he is in contempt of court, there's not really any doubt. And there was one more. You see, one of the great members of the law enforcement who have done a lot of great work today said to them, at the time there were about 1,500 people. They said, let's just say a few hundred, quote, because we don't want to give it credit. This is why I got on a plane to come here to cover the facts. That's why I'm here. Thank you.
There you have it. Andrew Lawton heard the conspiracy, there's a conspiracy theory. That's when you dream up some scheme that doesn't exist. That's called a conspiracy theory. But a conspiracy, look it up in the dictionary, is when people conspire to do something, often some sort of subterfuge or in secrecy. And that's exactly what Andrew Lawton witnessed firsthand, because the media party journalists did not know who he was. They let their guard down. They spoke as candidly near him as they would, assuming he was in on it with them, as most British journalists are. So they said, and he was sitting literally one pew in front of them in court. When I later came in, he was inches away. It's not like he was snooping on them. He was sitting right in front of them, and they were talking, apparently, in their regular, they weren't whispering. They just assumed he'd be in on it, because they're always in on it. They're all in on it together. Did you hear the stitch up? And you can get the details on Andrew Lawton's own website. I encourage you. Number one, at that point in time, and remember, this was just still 9:30 in the morning. The day had not even started. At 9:30 in the morning, police were already estimating 1,500 people. I'm not as good a counter as police. I estimate 2,000 or more later in the day. I mean, it was a lot of people. Did you hear what he said? The journalists concocted fake news. They agreed that although the police had given their official estimate of 1,500 people at 9:30 a.m., let's just say a few hundred, not to give them credit. That's called lying. That's called fake news. That's called disinformation. How can you trust those people ever again? They said that Tommy was obviously guilty. Well, hang on, isn't that the judge's job to determine guilt or not? Now, by the way, a contempt of court is not a crime. That's not guilty or not. It's either you committed contempt or not. Guilt, there's not a mental element of guilt. It's not a crime. So those reporters are so stupid they don't even understand it's not a crime. And these are the people trying to explain it to the rest of us, those liars. But you see what I'm saying? When you report on a criminal trial, you listen for what the judge has to say, and then you say, the judge says this, the judge says that. You don't say, well, obviously he's guilty, but yeah, I'll just whatever. I'll pretend I'm paying attention to the judge. And then, of course, their own comments that I ought to be jailed. Would you agree with me that bringing 4 real reporters was a good idea? I think so. Obviously, I think so is my idea. But if you're curious, I'm not sure if it's up and at 'em yet, but if you go to realreporters.uk, I think we have links to Cassandra, Andrew, Candace, and Avi. I know we were adding those links today, so if there's not there, you'll find it quick. Would you agree with me that besides the substantive outcome of the hearing, namely that the matter is being referred to the Attorney General, and in my view, that means it's quite a certainty that Tommy will not be back in court before 2019, and there's a distinct possibility that the Attorney General, just out of the humiliation of this matter, bringing the administration of justice into disrepute, may well just drop it in the end. I don't know. But it was definitely a victory for Tommy. He told me that what was hanging over him was the prospect of going back to prison over Christmas. He's a family man. He's got 3 beautiful kids and a wife. And imagine being sent back to prison over Christmas. That'd be terrible. He brought a prison bag with him. I didn't even know what a prison bag was till a couple months ago. Prison bag is a little bag. It's like a duffel bag. Well, it doesn't have to be a duffel bag, but it's usually what it is. It's where someone who's accused of a crime on their judgment day goes to court knowing there's a possibility he'll be jailed. You bring your toothpaste, your toothbrush, your razor, your deodorant, some underwear, some comfortable clothes, some sneakers, because you're probably wearing a suit or a jacket if you're going before the judge. But if you are convicted, you are taken away straight to jail. You don't get to go home first. So Tommy had already hugged and kissed his family and said his goodbyes in case that was the last time he'd see them for weeks or months, or God forbid, forever. And he packed his prison bag. He went to court with his prison bag. He had it with him in the court. I said, "Is that your prison bag?" He said, "Yeah, mate." And so it was a great victory that sword of Damocles, that if I'm using that illusion correctly, was removed. And the threat of imprisonment was removed. That's the main victory of the day. There was a great victory outside with the 2,000 people. I'm going to show you another video from that. 2,000. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I miss a super chat? Milk Bag Gang, Tommy Robinson. Yeah, I'm going to show you a chant in a minute. Thank you. I'm sorry I didn't. See, have I missed any other super chats? No, okay. The great victory was that Tommy is no longer in imminent jeopardy of jailing. It's obviously the most important thing, including for his family. 2,000 plus people outside was a great moral victory. I'll show you some clips from that. I showed you one already of Andrew Lawton, which I think was the third victory. Andrew, and check out Cassandra and Candace and Avi as well. Bringing them proved the rot of the British media party. That's my view. And I should tell you that if the matter does go back to trial for a 6th time, let me count them for you, May 25th, Tommy's first court appearance. July, the Court of Appeal application. August 1st, the Court of Appeal ruling. September 27th, the Old Bailey. October 23rd, Old Bailey number 2. That's 5 court appearances already, right? So if it goes back for a rehearing at the Attorney General's, like court appearance number 6, then there'll probably be a sentencing hearing. That's the 7th hearing. Then there will surely be an appeal. That's the 8th hearing. And then the ruling on the appeal, a 9th hearing. Would you agree with me this is getting a bit ridiculous? Especially when I told you that an actual case of contempt, where an actual trial was disrupted, there was no endlessness like this. It was a £10,000 fine and nothing. And by the way, £10,000 for the Sun and the Mirror, the Mail, or whatever tabloid, it's nothing. That's like an hour's worth of profits for them. Let me just make sure I'm up to speed with the super chats. $4.99 crowds shouting Ezra and seeing you smile. Great job. Well, okay, I want to play that clip. You're right. That's very friendly. So I was there. I was inside, and I wanted to take a slightly less prominent role because I wanted my 4 reporter friends. I wanted to make sure they had access to the cameras and to Tommy himself. Because I mean, listen, I've done 50 Tommy videos, probably, if you count them all up. I don't need it to do video number 51 instead of these guys doing video number 1. You know what I mean? So I was taking a bit of a back seat. But Tommy's friend Danny, who was running the thing, said, "Ezra, come up on stage." I said, sure. Yeah, I'll go up on stage. It'll be fun. I took some pictures from up there. And then he asked me to say a few words, and I did. But then Tommy, he thanked me, which was nice. I mean, I have been helping on this file. But it turned into just an incredible moment. And I have to say, I made a joke on Twitter that I haven't had such a friendly reception in my life with the possible exception of the moment I was born. Let me show you when Tommy thanked me. Can I brag? It's not bragging. Sorry, this is not bragging. There's a Yiddish word, can I kvel, can I shep naches, can I take pride? It's not bragging. It's can I show you what felt pretty good. I've never had such a warm reception ever. Who has 2,000 people cheering them? I've never had that before. It's tough for me to get 2 people to cheer me. Look at this video.
I want to thank every single person who showed me support. When I come out, my head was all over the place, and I couldn't even deal with the solicitors. Ezra.
That was pretty friendly, eh? That was pretty friendly. It was surprising. I mean, I feel like I don't feel that way anymore, but I suppose until then I felt like a stranger in the UK. I mean, I'm a Canadian guy. I really haven't spent a lot of time. I mean, I would go and visit Tommy maybe once a month, but I was pretty low key. But I suppose over the last, I don't know, what's it been, 90 days or so, we fought the fight. So it was a wonderful feeling. Anyways, I don't know what to say other than thanks for your kind words, and it was a pretty great feeling. And yeah. Anyways, let's see. I see a new super chat. It's a critical one from Dave C, who chips in $10. I think that's Australian. Love Rebel and your work, but you were unfair to Faith Goldie every time you were asked about Toronto elections. You spent 10 minutes running her down. A less condemning answer would have been more professional. I'm sure that's true. That a less condemning answer would have been more professional. But my relationship with Faith was professional, but it was also personal, in that she was not just a candidate, but rather she was a former employee of mine. So I had a relationship with her in that, and I would say we were friends as well. And the manner in which she was expelled from our company, namely my firing her, was for not only a professional violation, but she lied to me about her conduct, and for the last 14 months she has not remedied that. I don't propose to give another 10-minute excursion on the subject now, because she got 3-point-something% of the vote and it's all moot. But I would say you're correct. It was an answer that went beyond a professional editorial reply, because it's not just professional editorial. She deeply damaged this company with her misconduct. I'm just glad it's over, because I'm sick of being asked the same question every week on Battleground, and that's that. El Chapacabra says, is the Attorney General the last stop, or can they pass the case onto someone else like the judge did this past week? Okay, you're talking about Tommy Robinson and the fact that it was set to go to trial on Tuesday. That's why we brought all the reporters in. I thought, literally until the night before, I thought that we would have the full hearing. And so did the judge. I don't know if you followed my live tweets, but the judge started off by saying, I have the jurisdiction to proceed. I was going to proceed. The amicus curiae, the friend of the court lawyer, Angus McCullough, said I can proceed. But last night, having read the witness statement from Tommy Robinson, I elect not to proceed and to give this to the Attorney General. So that's what happened substantively in the court. So I don't want to say I'm an expert in British contempt of court law, because it is so obscure. And what I've learned is that with Tommy, anything can happen. There's always some scheme to get him. And that's not a speculation on my part. I compare his treatment to that of the Daily Mail and the Daily Mirror, whatever the papers were that just got the £10,000 fine. But I believe now that Old Bailey's most senior judge, Nicholas Hilliard, QC, known as the Recorder of London, he has sent the matter to the Attorney General. They have it now. It's like a hot potato. You hold it, ouch. No, you hold it, ouch, hot potato. So the Attorney General has got this hot potato, but the Attorney General, see, the judge, if the judge were to hear it, he's seized with it. The Court of Appeal ordered him to have a rehearing. he would have to hear it. But the Attorney General doesn't have to proceed. They have a discretion that's frankly a political discretion. The Attorney General is a political office. It's in a cabinet. By the way, I did tell you, I met the Attorney General. I was there when he was sworn in. He was in the same courtroom that Tommy Robinson's appeal was in an hour before his appeal back in July. I said hi to him. And I introduced myself to him and gave him a congratulations. I see there's some more super chats. I'll come back to them in a second. The Attorney General now has to make a decision, and the math is twofold. Is it in the public interest to proceed? And part of that is, I guess the second point, is there a likelihood of success? I can't speak to the likelihood of success, but I can certainly give my opinion that it is not in the public interest to proceed. Seriously, I told you that we had 5 hearings. We're for sure going to have 4 more. Just for sure. Is that really in the public interest? And by the way, a barometer of whether or not it's in the public interest is how many people are outside the Old Bailey saying this is wrong. That number is growing, people. So, yeah. I don't think there's, to an answer to your question, I don't think there is a third route it's going to go. I think it'll either proceed with the Attorney General or they'll drop it. Brigitte Fronsdorf chips in $20 Canadian. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And I missed one from Tame Thing One. We love you, Ezra. Yes, we do. Oh, Ezra, we love it. Thank you. You know what? That was a very nice moment. That was absolutely a very nice moment. Okay, so let's see. Just check the clock. It's 12:31. So we've spent half our time. I think I've covered. Oh, you know what? Can I show you one more video from the rally? So I showed you Andrew Lawton giving his firsthand witness account of what he heard the other reporters planning their stitch-up. I thought that was, frankly, the most interesting thing of the day. I showed you my personal sentimental moment where people cheered me. That felt pretty good. Tommy's speech was outstanding. By the way, if you haven't read it yet, it's on TommyTrial.com. TommyTrial.com. You can watch his speech in full. It's mainly him reading his witness statement, the one that got the judge to make the decision. If you haven't seen that, can I please invite you to go to TommyTrial.com or go to our YouTube page, whatever. It's in several places. Yeah, you can watch it. This is what TommyTrial.com looks like. It's on that page there. There's me talking to Lord Pearson. Yeah, keep scrolling down. Let's just show folks some of the videos there. How they ruled you. Okay, we're going to show that video next, but keep scrolling down for a second. Yeah, there's Andrew Lawton. So you can see it's all in one place. That's Tommy's witness statement. Okay, so all these videos, you see they're all on one page. Is there anything else on this page? Oh yeah, that I gave a speech too, talking about the Lions of Britain. There's Tommy's speech before court. So Tommy actually gives 2 speeches. Oh yeah, this is me. Anyhow, there's a lot of videos there. There's a lot of videos. There's me when I just arrived. I was pretty excited. So what's that, like 7 videos or something? And then there's, of course, the work that Andrew did and Candace did and Cassandra did and Avi did. So we got a lot of journalism for you. If you think this is an interesting case, go to TommyTrial.com. There's at least an hour of viewing there, probably more. Now there's a U.S. comedian who's got a bit of a political flavor. There's a few of those guys. Most of them are on the left, but some are on the right. Our old friend Gavin McInnes, I put him in that category. But Owen Benjamin. He's also a musician. And he composed a song called How They Rule Ya to the tune of Hallelujah. You know the song by Leonard Cohen, the Canadian. Hallelujah was also done by Katie Lang. Beautiful version. I saw her perform that live. So Owen Benjamin did a version of Hallelujah, Hallelujah. Do you know that? Hallelujah. You know that song? Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So Owen did it, How They Rule Ya, and he wrote lyrics about Tommy. And so Danny, who was organizing the demo, printed up little cards, like little song sheets, this big, like a half a postcard, and handed out like 1,000 of these to everyone at the demo. So, because most people had probably not seen it on YouTube. And so, they played the music and they sang the song. I'm going to play that in a second, but I just see a first quick super chat, and then I'm going to play that Owen Benjamin song, okay? So I see that the Loogie Man says, Ezra, I appreciate your work and the rest of the Rebel team, but your views on YouTube seem to suffer. What can you do to increase average viewership? Well, listen, yeah, I mean, right now there's 511 people watching, and I appreciate that, and thank you. But we have more than 1 million subscribers. Don't tell me that YouTube isn't throttling us, suppressing us, constricting us. 1 million. That's pretty big. Don't tell me only 1 out of every 2,000 people cares. I'm sorry, I don't believe that. Tommy himself has 950,000 followers on Facebook. He hops on Facebook within moments. He's got 10,000. I'm not saying I'm as riveting as Tommy, but don't tell me that we've got 1 million viewers and only 525 are watching. I don't believe it. I've had 3 meetings with YouTube. One of them in person here in Toronto, 2 of them via Skype, 1 in California, 1 in Texas. They don't give a damn. Well, it's not even that they don't give a damn. They stand by it. They censor political commentary. What are you going to do? Political commentary on the right. They would never censor commentary on the left, like, for example, the Young Turks. Okay. Before I thank you, the Loogie Man, appreciate that. It's 12:36. I want to show you this moment. Tommy said this is one of the great moments of his life. He said this to me. I should tell you, when everyone was chanting Ezra, 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 that felt pretty good to me. But look, I haven't been the one in prison. I haven't been the one who perhaps would not see his family again. I have not been the one who has been dragged through this process by the state. I have not been demonized to the extent he has been. So Tommy told me, I had lunch with him the next day, along with Avi Yamini and Danny. It was a great little goodbye lunch. Tommy said the following moment, I'm going to play this clip for you. Tommy said this was one of the great moments of his life. Take a look.
This is my thank you to Owen Benjamin in America.
Turn it up, Paul! Turn it up! What's the secret chord in the back?
It's pretty nice, eh? It goes on for a little bit. I just wanted you to see how big the crowd was. It was very emotional. There's a real feeling of togetherness. I know that sounds emotional and sentimental, but it just was. Many of these people had been to several Tommy demonstrations before, and had watched and worried and hoped. And this, that was obviously after Tommy was released, and the matter referred to the Attorney General. So it felt more like so there was a sense of closure, although the matter is still alive. There was a feeling of success there. You see all the flags, it's really nice. There was an American flag there. I saw a Canadian flag there. I saw an Israeli flag there. I saw a Polish flag there. I always saw the Cross of St. George flag there. I saw the flag of Richard the Lionheart there, and other flags that I could not identify. It's pretty fun. And you guys I just sent you another video. So there's a lot of love. You saw I felt a lot of it personally, and that moment of singing that song was very nice. But now you saw that crowd. How many people would you say were there? I made one estimate. I said 2,400. Look, I didn't count. It's just a guess. You heard that police at around 9:30 a.m. estimated 1,500. Okay, and I don't think the police are going to exaggerate that. I just don't think so. You heard Andrew Lawton say that the media was conspiring to lowball the number. You heard him. So there was so we're standing out there. Would you say there was it's impossible that was less than 1,000 people. I mean, use your eyes. Police said 1,500 at 9:30 a.m. I said 2,400. Would you accept that there were at least 1,500 people there and perhaps 2,000? Would you accept that? I suppose you could possibly freeze the screen and literally try and count all the people in it. It was big. But while we were on the stage, I don't know who it was, they saw that, I think it was the BBC, was reporting that there were only 300 people there. And can you do full screen and sound up, please? Sound up. Replay. Now, I don't know if you can hear that, because I took that on my own iPhone there. So someone had just said, the BBC says there's only 300 people there. And the crowd starts pointing at the media party. Shame on you. Shame on you. Can you play that full screen sound up one more time, please? Thanks very much. The reason I want to show you that is because I felt the love, and I'm pretty sure it stung to have 2,000 people saying, shame on you, shame on you. But they don't give a damn, because the media party hates everyone there, and they hated them first. The media despises the people of the demo. They hate Tommy, and the only thing worse than Tommy is someone who ignores their advice to hate Tommy also, and actually likes Tommy, let alone supports Tommy. The only thing worse in the eyes of a BBC journalist, a Sky News journalist, an ITV journalist, a Channel 4 journalist, a Daily Mirror journalist, a Daily Mail journalist, a Times journalist, a Telegraph journalist, the only thing worse in their mind than Tommy Robinson is someone who defies the fancy people who saying you have to hate Tommy Robinson with us. Because you could foolishly like Tommy Robinson, but then when our wise men and women of the media party said, no, he's a bad man, to like him in the face of that, despite that, contrary to that, well, you must be deeply evil. So they despise the people, and I believe that hatred is now requited. Would you agree with me? I don't think those 2,000 people in the crowd there naturally hate the media more than they would hate anyone else, but after years of being lied to and lied about, yeah, feelings mutual. Later that day, I took a cab and I heard a BBC reporter repeat that lie. So maybe earlier in the day when there was a few hundred people there, maybe that could have been true for a moment. But that, at least an hour or two later after the event, the BBC was still lying, saying hundreds. They're liars. I see some more super chats coming in. Melvina Moreland, Tommy has been invited to speak to some U.S. congressmen on November 14th. Hope he can travel to the USA. Yeah, me too. He obviously has some visa and travel issues, but if he can come over to this side of the pond, that'd be amazing. I spoke to Tommy briefly about that, and we'd love to help with any events in North America. I'm sure Tommy would sell out theaters in a second. People want to hear from him directly, and we'd love to be a part of that. We just have to make sure that, number one, he can come into the country. Number two, he's been hosted by the Middle East Forum, and obviously they would, if they're bringing him in, they would have first dibs on him. I'd be happy to work with them. I have worked with them before. So yeah, that's very good news. So let's see. We showed you the Hallelujah. We showed you the Andrew Lawton. We showed you the Ezra chant. That was fun. We showed you the Shame on You clip. Now, I want to tell you that, can you put the B-roll up of Lord Pearson? There is a Brit in the House of Lords, which is like their Senate over there, but it's appointed for life. Lord Pearson of Renwick is there's 800 lords in the House, 800 peers, and there's 600 MPs. So you got 1,400 politicians in their parliament. That's a lot of politicians. This guy here is the only one who supports Tommy. And you can see this story there. It was just there briefly about, so he did an interview with Tommy, as you can see. And the two of them became sort of chums. And there I was interviewing Lord Pearson. You can see that's Westminster Abbey behind us. We're actually standing in the parking lot of the House of Lords, and the Duke of Wellington almost ran me over in his car. And I said to Lord Pearson, that would have been the finest end to my life I could ever hope for. To be killed with the Duke of Wellington running me over in his Bentley. My parents would be so proud if that's how I went out. But it was not to be. The Duke waited for me to move. PLN, I don't know what that means. Maybe I don't even know what that means, but it's a super chat. The UK is becoming like Poland in the 1980s slowly, but that's for sure. Just wait, they have won for now, but history will be unmerciful. Okay, thank you for that. Tommy likes Poland. Anyway, so Lord Pearson is chums with Tommy. And I had never met Lord Pearson before, but I understand he was attentive to the rally. And so I did my journalism and I met people, I shook some hands, I took some selfies. And then Lord Pearson and his staff said, come on up to the House of Lords, let's have a bite of lunch. Well, who am I to say? No, I mean, I'm like a cruise ship. I have 2 seatings for lunch a day. So yeah, of course I'm going to go up there. People criticize British cuisine, but let's not prejudge. Let's not be snobby about things. This is the House of Lords, probably pretty good grub. And indeed it was. I want to show you, not everybody liked the fact that Lord Pearson brought ruffians like Tommy Robinson and me into the sanctum sanctorum, into the Palace of Westminster. Take a look at these tabloids. There was obviously some lord in the House of Lords who was furious with us. Put him up on the screen now, fellas. Tommy Robinson enjoys lavish House of Lords lunch with UKIP leader moments after walking free from court. Scroll down a little bit here. So this is the Mirror. Keep scrolling, please. Yeah, are there any photos in this one here? Yeah, there's Tommy, Gerard Batten, and Lord Pearson in front of the statue of Richard Light. Scroll down a little bit more. There's Tommy on stage with someone wearing a Trump mask. Okay, put the other one up. I think there's one with a photo of the actual lunch. Can we get that? The other newspaper. My point is, the very fact that a lord from the House of Lords would invite Tommy Robinson and me to lunch, put the other one up when you got it, and some peer in the House of Lords sneaked a photo. You're not allowed to take photos from within there, but he sneaked a photo of us having lunch. And it was a boozy lunch. Tommy had water. Do we have the other one? There we go. So this is a picture. There's Tommy. And those are water glasses. Now, there is a bottle of wine there, but Tommy didn't have any. Actually, I don't even see the bottle of wine there. Scroll down a little bit more. There's Tommy speaking at the rally, wearing his Remembrance Day poppy. Scroll down a little more. Okay, I guess that's it. There were some other stories. There must have been story. What's the headline on that one? What was the headline on that one there? Tommy Robinson walks free from court and straight to a boozy lunch at the House of Lords. Far-right activist Tommy Robinson was released on bail. Anyhow, all right. What's my point? It was great to see Lord Pearson. It was a delight. I was making a joke about the food. The food was great. It's good food. Was it fancy? It was very, piece of meat, potatoes. Tommy had water to drink. But it sure was fancy. I'm not going to lie. You're in the House of Lords. It's a fancy place. It's very nice to be there. I had never met Lord Pearson before. I had never been in the House of Lords before. It was amazing. I felt like we were treated very hospitably by Lord Pearson. I was joking around about the food. Of course it was good. But the media was furious that Tommy and his lot would be invited. And I'm going to play you a clip from the next day in Question Time. That's what they call Question Period over there in the UK, where some leftist stood up in Parliament and shrieked, "How dare, how dare Tommy be allowed here?" And you know what? I tell you, there's a classism in the UK. And obviously Lord Pearson of Rannoch is he's a peer. He's a member of the House of Lords. Tommy Robinson is a working class bloke from Luton, but the sneering, how dare he be allowed in here? I'm going to play that for you in a second, so get ready with that clip, guys. I'm just going to catch up with some of these super chats here that I went by. Tame Thing 1, $2.79. Saudi Arabia grants citizenship to a robot. That sounds hard to believe, but I haven't read the story. That fellow from Poland again, the media reporting on Tommy is like the Soviet Pravda. Yes! That's why we brought the 4 real reporters with me, and I'm glad I did. Anglo-Saxon L says, Ezra, thank you so much for everything you've done, not just for Tommy, but for every UK citizen who values free speech, and most importantly, the truth. Well, thank you very much for saying that. I think I've caught up with the Super Chats. Okay, do we have the clip? So just to back up for a second. Great success in court. Super good rally. Beautiful moment of togetherness with Tommy and the whole place singing that song written by Owen Benjamin. I even got a friendly shout out, and I just felt great. Lord Pearson of Rannoch says, hey guys, come up here, love to buy you lunch. Well, sorry, pretty tough to say no to that. We went up there. It was a nice lunch. Tommy had a glass of water. I saw it with my own eyes. Tommy was on best behavior. Everyone was on their best behavior. Some snobby, anti-Tommy person in the room took a photo. You're not even supposed to take photos in there. The press went wild. Boozy lunch, 2.5. It wasn't a 2. I don't know. I was there for half an hour. I got there late. So I want to play for you this clip from Question Time. For our American friends who don't understand, this is when opposition MPs usually stand up in the House of Commons and ask questions of the government. And in this case, it was actually asking a question to the Speaker of the House about how dare Tommy, who's a British citizen, how dare he even be allowed in? How dare he? But it was said with a lovely Scottish accent. Take a listen.
Yesterday, the violent racist thug and fraudster known as Stephen Yatsley Lennon, or Tommy Robinson, was invited onto the estate and wined and dined in the House of Lords yesterday. Mr. Speaker, I understand that sometimes we have to engage in views that one might not agree with, but surely the fact that a man who is as guilty as he is on stirring up racial hatred, organising violent, thuggish crimes around the country, setting up the EDL and everything that comes with it, crosses a line. And such a person shouldn't be invited to walk amongst us on the parliamentary estate. Can I invite you to advise me and advise other members if that is in order, and if you would take it up with your counterpart in the House of Lords.
I'm grateful to the honourable gentleman for his point of order, of which, and I make no complaint about this, I had no advance notice, so I am reacting on my feet, and I'm perfectly content to do so. What I would say to the honourable gentleman is twofold. First, I share his assessment of the individual concerned. A loathsome, obnoxious, repellent individual. And I make no bones about my view being the same as his on that front. Secondly, however, and this is the procedurally significant point, the question of who might be invited to dine in the other place is outside of my remit. Now, I always appreciate the enthusiasm of the honourable gentleman for extending my reach and scope. I'm very grateful to him that those are the terms in which he thinks. However, this is a matter for the other place. And so when the honourable gentleman asks me for my advice to him is that if he wishes to pursue the matter, he should in the first instance, both as a matter of courtesy and of practicality, write...
All right, he blathers on a bit as he's known to do. So let me just give you a recap of what we saw there. The first fella in the beautiful Scottish accent has the beautiful Scottish name, Stuart MacDonald, but that's all that's beautiful about him. I thought what he said was ugly, and here's the thing, when you say something in a parliament, it is subject to absolute privilege or parliamentary privilege, which means you cannot be sued for defamation. You could literally stand up if you're a member of parliament, and Stuart MacDonald is a Scottish National Party MP. You could literally stand up and say, I saw Tommy Robinson murder someone. Factually false, extremely derogatory and damaging, obviously insane, obviously not true. If you were to step outside Parliament, you would immediately be faced with a defamation action. You can say anything in the House of Commons. And that's what Stuart MacDonald did. Irresponsible? Yes. Unfair? Yes. Cowardly? Yes. Because if he truly believed those things, why wouldn't he say them outside the legal protections of Parliament? He was abusing his parliamentary privilege. The reason we give MPs privilege to say things with immunity is so that they can tackle controversial matters without fear of them being bullied by spurious nuisance defamation actions. Instead, Stuart MacDonald used that privilege to bully someone else, to cast false aspersions, to defame and slander. He was abusing it, and normally, the Speaker of the House is there to say, all right, well, you can't say he murdered someone. Would you like to correct or apologize? But in this case, John Bercow, the loathsome Speaker of the House, added to the calumny. What are the words? What did he say? Loathsome. I called him loathsome because of what he did. He called Tommy loathsome and obnoxious. So basically, a couple of fancy toffs, if you can call Bercow and MacDonald toffs. I think they want to be fancy. I don't think they have any class. I don't understand class. It's a British thing, but I think both of them are climbers, are social climbers, are fakers, are showboats, who have risen beyond their proper station, if I can engage in some retributive classism. I think they're snobs. I think they have an inferiority complex. Tommy joked with me. He said, John Bercow is one of the only men in Britain shorter than Tommy. Tommy's about 5'6" or something, 5'7" maybe. John Bercow. So yeah, he's got little man syndrome, John Bercow. And Stuart MacDonald, what an embarrassment to the Scots, who were once a proud, patriotic people who would have followed Tommy into battle. Now they follow little losers like Stuart MacDonald. The reason I'm using epithets and insults is because, unlike them, I don't need parliamentary privilege to protect me. I truly believe that they are cowardly and snobby and bullies. And if they stood by, especially Stuart MacDonald's imputation that Tommy has committed hate crimes, step outside Parliament and say that. It's not just the abuse that they heaped on Tommy. It's the fact that they were so triggered just because he was having a sandwich. Oh my God, a working class bloke is in the House of Lords having lunch. Oh, well, you know what? Call the tabloids. That's front page. Well, indeed it was. Fossil chips in £5. We love you, Ezra. Yes, we do. What's nice you to say? Let me look at the clock. It's 12:58. We're almost out of time. I see Drew Biddles, $2. Man or not, I still love Lauren Southern. You're referring to that old video where Lauren Southern actually gets a Canadian doctor to certify her as male. It was really funny when we did that video. It ain't so funny anymore. I don't know if you know, if you've been following the story about that transgender man who's winning all these bicycling championships, not against other men, but he's going into the girls' league. And he's totally dominating because he's a man-sized man with man-sized quads and hamstrings, and he's crushing the girls, but he calls himself a transgender. So he's allowed to compete against girls. That's not funny. It's funny when Lauren Southern, who's a pretty girl, goes and gets a doctor to declare her a man. It's funny, but it's not funny when someone does the same thing to legit enter an all-girls bike race. It's 12:59, which means we just have seconds left. Folks, I want to thank you for your support, not just for me, but for Tommy. I encourage you to watch more of Tommy's speech and the rally and our reports at TommyTrial.com. Tommy is not in imminent legal jeopardy now. That may change if the Attorney General seeks to pursue him. I really appreciated the support for realreporters.uk, and if you believe that was worthwhile, feel free to head on over to realreporters.uk and chip in. I haven't received all the receipts from those reporters, so I don't know what the total budget will be, but we've offered to pay their incidentals and things like parking and cab fare and stuff like that. I don't know, it's been a busy week. There's a lot of battles on this side of the Atlantic, of course. Canada is not as big or controversial these days as the UK, but we have our own problems and we need to fix them and solve them. Of course, America is a controversial place with much on the go, but we have given proper attention to Tommy, and I think we can maybe take our foot off the gas a bit, focus on things here. Although I should tell you in closing, and I'm out of time now, that on Wednesday morning, after Tommy had a good night's sleep, I met up with him and we talked about some projects that he says he needs a little bit of help with. And on a very narrow case-by-case basis, I'm going to continue to help him. He's not coming back to work for the Rebel. He's independent. I've enjoyed working with him independently. I'm not his boss. I don't want to be his boss. I don't believe Tommy can have a boss. He's just not built for a boss. But on an ad hoc basis, on a case-by-case basis, if I can provide him with some support, in a manner similar to that which I've done over the past few months, I'd like to continue doing so. And we'll do that on a case-by-case basis. I like just being his buddy. It's more fun than trying to be his boss. I've enjoyed crowdfunding for him and these collateral projects like Real Reports. We'll keep doing that. And we'll keep doing our journalism because he's not just a friend and a project, he's a story. And we'll keep talking about him and doing our best. Thanks for being part of that. Thanks to those who joined in today. For those of you who want some more Rebel, feel free to poke around our website or join me tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Time where I do my full daily Ezra Levant show. That's almost an hour long. It's behind the paywall, so you got to chip in $8 or what's that, about £6 to watch it. Until then, on behalf of all of us here at Rebel World Headquarters to you around the world, goodbye and keep fighting for freedom.